Today, inshallah, for a brief while, we'll be discussing the virtues, the fadail of ilm of deen, the importance of ilm in Islam, and more importantly, the importance of ilm to the Muslim community in the United States. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. Rough translation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قل, that O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ask this question, pose this question to mankind. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. That is there any equality? Those people who are bereft and devoid of knowledge, that they spend no time in acquiring ilm, can they ever be equal with those people who actually take the time out, put in the required mujahada and the struggle and sacrifice, and learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can there be any equality between the two? In the rules of balagha and rhetoric, the question comes about, the Mufassirin discuss this, that isn't it our aqeedah, isn't it our understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-alim, the most knowledgeable, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. So what's the purpose of asking a question? Why ask a question from mankind? This in Arabic is called istifham. When you're seeking fahm, you want to know something. But the beauty of the Quran, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the grammatical language, this is called istifham al-inkar. When you pose a question, your maqsad, your purpose is not to increase your ilm. Na'udhu billah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the ilm. The purpose behind this is the beauty and the rhetoric of the Quran. When you pose a question of which you know the answer to, it makes it, when if something is self-evident in and of itself, the emphasis is created. That if you ask any person, from the most senior person to the most junior person, from the most muttaqi person to the most fasiq person, you pose this question, they'll all say that there's no equality between the two. The ahli ilm, the people who have sacrificed their time and their lives to acquire ilm, they are going to be the highest ranking of people. This is what we should try to aspire to attain. We don't suffice on being in the mere low level. I learned a couple of surahs, I know a couple of things here, there, I go to a talk every once in a while. No. That jazba and that enthusiasm to acquire ilm has to be embedded deep in our hearts. This is how the Sahaba lived. To give you a brief example, look at the life of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. They also worked. Sometimes we have a far-fetched imagination of what the life of the Sahaba was like. Some Arab brothers in the middle of the desert, no work, no bills to pay, no mouths to feed. It's a misconception, my brothers. The Sahaba had the same expenses that we have. They had the same families that we have. They have the same responsibilities that we have. But what did Umar have to do? He said that, listen, I know that seeking ilm is incumbent upon me. I have to seek the ilm. But at the same time, I also have to go to work. So he said that, okay, let me use my mind. I'm going to make a deal with my neighbor. And he told his neighbor, listen, when Rasulullah is having his dars and his halaqah in the masjid, I need to go to work, so you go and attend the majlis. I'm going to go to my job. When I come home, you inform me of whatever transpired in that masjid. You fill me in on whatever Rasulullah taught in the masjid. The next day, I will go to the majlis of Rasulullah. I will study. You go to work. And when you come home from work, I will tell you whatever transpired in the masjid from that day. Whatever hadith that I learned, I will narrate to you at the end of the night. So in this manner, Umar at that time was probably in his, you could say, in his mid-40s. He wasn't these small little madrasa students that we see, mashallah, right now in the Quran. And he himself, at that age, it took him 8 years to memorize Surah Baqarah only. So that's the kind of inclination, that kind of jazba, that kind of enthusiasm we all need to have, no matter what our ages, from young to old. Another verse, one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to give us an understanding of how there's this inequality between the two. Rasulullah mentions that خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. This is the beloved Rasulullah al-Amin, trustworthy, Saduq. He is the most honest. He says the best of creation, the best of mankind, خَيْرُكُمْ, the best of you is he who مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. He who takes out time and actually learns Quran. And he who teaches the Quran. Normally, what we take to understand from this is that, okay, mashallah, I will learn the recitations of Quran. As I can see, I was shown, mashallah, beautiful, beautiful hifz madrasas. They told me so many wafat graduated from here. And this is very beautiful. This is also included in the meaning of this hadith, no doubt about it. But are we going to stop and suffice there? Do we suffice and content ourselves that, mashallah, I've done so many surahs, and listen to me how I can recite it. Sometimes we make a lot of fakhar and we have a lot of pride, and mashallah, I know 7 recitations. The Sabah, Qira'at al-Sabah, I can recite to you Surah Fatiha in 7 different ways as it was revealed. But let's look, was the Quran revealed just for recitation, or was the Holy Quran revealed as a constitution for the life of a Muslim? The Holy Quran is our guidebook. It tells us everything that we need to know from the time we are born to the time that we die and the time that we are resurrected. So this will not suffice that we just learn how to recite the Quran and we memorize the whole entire Quran. Because the maqsad of the Holy Quran is that we implement it in our lives, and for that we need to understand and get faham of the Quran. We need to understand what the message within the Quran is. It will not suffice. Just to give you a brief little example, let's assume you sent a letter home from work. And you told your son that, son, there's a big da'wat, there's a big invitation, there's a big party going on in our house tonight. So I'm ordering you that you go to the store, you buy some food. So you send him an order, you give him an instruction. What does the son do? He takes it, mashallah, and he recites it so beautifully, making the tunes very nice and very melodious and very beautiful, but he doesn't fulfill that instruction. Are you going to be satisfied that, oh, look at my son, he can recite it so beautifully? Or the actual purpose is that he did that job? He might have not recited it in the most beautiful of tone, but he did that thing. You're going to be so happy that, mashallah, he followed the instruction. The same way the Holy Quran. What do we do now mostly? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, but we don't spend enough time to understand what's contained in the Quran. This is imperative for us. And if doing so, the benefit will be our benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the barakah of this, He's going to raise our level and He's going to raise our darajat. One ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, يَرْفَعِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ دَرَجَاتٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will raise in ranks those amongst you who have iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely raise the ranks of the mu'mineen. Then towards the end of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. And specifically, those who have been given knowledge, they will be raised tremendously. Ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu anhu, under the tafsir of this ayah, he mentions that at the end of the surah, darajat, that there's many, many, many ranks. This refers to the comparison of those amongst the mu'mineen over those who are just mu'mineen. That the people who sacrifice, the people who spend their time and their wealth and their energies and their concentration and devotion to one deen, they're going to raise in ranks above the brother mu'mineen who did it. In the dunya as well and in the akhirah. There's many examples of how ilm, by its nature, it raises the ranks of people. The very first, the paradigm of insan, right? Our forefather Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, what did He create him from? He created him from, you can say, mud and water, soil and water. Very lowly, humbling things. Nowadays, if any one of us coming towards Jummah, we try to be nice, spick and span clean. If a single spot of dirt or mud gets on our clothing, we'll be embarrassed to show up for Jummah. That what's everybody going to say? Look, I came like this. But this is the essence of our creation. We are created from deen, this mud. Now, at this juncture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told all of the inhabitants of the skies that prostrate and bow down before Adam alayhi salam. Shaitan, Iblis, at that time, up until then, he was, you can say, the most knowledgeable of the Sharia and the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was the most worshipful of servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at this juncture, he was tested. He tries to use his own logic. And he said that this Adam alayhi salam is created from this. His statement is mentioned in the Quran. خَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. That, oh Allah, how can I make sajda before this? You have created me from fire. Such a powerful element it is, always rising. You created him from teen. Meaning that this Adam alayhi salam, he doesn't have much. He has no strength. He's a weak. How can I make sajda before him? Even the Malaika, they weren't spared. When they looked at Adam alayhi salam, the question they pose is, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيُفْسِدُ الدِّمَاءَ, that, oh Allah, you intend to take this insan, this human being, this Adam alayhi salam, and you want him to be your Khalifa on the earth. Are you going to place such a person who is going to spread mischief? Are you going to send such a person who is going to shed blood? So from our inception, we didn't have what the people would understand from insan. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that insan has one khususiyat, one speciality, and that was, Imam al-Razi mentioned, that was the ilm that was given to him. In the surah, Allah mentioned, وَعَلَّمَ الْآدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names of everything. And because of the barakah of that, that's what gives him the fadila and the virtue even over the malaika, over the jannat, and the entire creation. The barakah of his ilm. So this ilm, it was the factor of this ilm, that when he learned that ilm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him above even the malaika, the sinless malaika. Another example, in Sahih Muslim, there's a narration, narrated by Umar ibn Khattab. It mentions that Umar ibn Anhu, at that time he was the Khalifa of the Muslim Empire. And as a Khalifa in Medina Munawwara, he had governors spread out over the entire Islamic Empire. And this thought crossed his mind. He said, let me find out. So he asked his governor, that, who have you placed as the mayor? Who have you placed in charge in Makkah al-Mukarramah? Makkah al-Mukarramah is known as al-Qura, the mother of all cities. And the nobles, the high-ranking people of Quraysh lived in Makkah al-Mukarramah. So he was saying, who did you put to control, and who did you put as a leader in Makkah al-Mukarramah? So his governor said that, Ya Umar, I have made the Amir over them, Ibn Abi Abzi. Umar then, he was astonished, because he knew who this person was. He said, you set a slave as an Amir over Makkah al-Mukarramah. You can say the elite, the highest ranking people of Quraysh are there, and you set a freed slave as an Amir. So then the governor responded, he says, Ya Umar, he is a qari of the Quran. And in those days, qari, he's a hafiz. And another thing, he's an alim of the deen. He's a scholar of the deen. He has sacrificed. He knows the sharia. He knows the deen of Islam. So then Umar he said, he understood. And then he narrates this hadith, that Rasulullah mentioned that Allahu yarfa'u bihadha al-kitabi qawman wa yad'u al-akharun. That by this kitab, by this Quran, by people who take out the time to learn it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yarfa'u qawm. He will raise their darajat upon others. And with the same Quran, if we leave it aside, like we have been doing, we don't bother to mention it, we don't even bother, lucky if we read it, then too to understand what it's saying. The tafsir, the explanation, read the hadith that explains the ayat. If we leave this Quran, and it doesn't become a central focal point in our life, then Allah will debase the rest of the people. You basically make that ikram and nobilize that Quran internally by understanding it and learning it, Allah will raise you. You leave it aside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will debase it. Allah save us from that. Then, another example. In the previous days and age, you would have, like the example of Ibn Abi Abzi, there's another example of Nafi' rahimahullah. Nafi' is the freed slave, Mawla ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. He was a slave. Nowadays, we don't even have a concept of what a slave is. What a slave would do, they would do all the menial tasks, the menial labor, clean the bathroom, clean the toilet. In our society, we don't even have that lower category of our rank in society. So Nafi' rahimahullah, he was that. That was his work. I'm a slave. I'm a petty slave. Now, Ibn Umar anhuma, he was one of the greatest Sahaba. And he was known to have ishq and love for the sunnahs of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he would make it a point in his life that I'm going to follow every single sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now, because Nafi' rahimahullah, he would always be around with Ibn Umar, and he would learn. Whatever Ibn Umar knew, whatever he would learn also. Then there came a time when he became the imam of all people, the nobles, the people who had the elite ranks in society would come and sit at his feet to learn hadith. In the field of mustalah al-hadith, the field of sanad and asanid and chains of narrations of hadith, there's a term known as silsilat al-dhahab. This is known as the golden chain. Meaning that the ulama of hadith will tell you that when you have the silsilat al-dhahab, this chain of narrators is so strong that you can close your eyes and you can understand that this hadith is sahih. You don't have to go over the. And they're saying, the majority of the ulama hadith say that sanad is an Nafi' and Ibn Umar and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For ages and ages and ages, this is the maqam that the Islamic society had given to a freed slave. Aside from that, these are people. Is on an individual level, alhamdulillah, Allah will raise our ranks. On a community level, on a city level, on a state level, and even on a country level, and even on an ummah level, if all of us collectively start understanding and start learning the ilm of deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise the ranks of the city, of the community, of the state, and of the country. To give you a brief couple of examples, the city of Kufa, during the Khilafah of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, it was a barren desert land. Nobody would even bother traveling through Kufa. Nothing to be found there. No growth, no nothing, no inhabitants. Complete desert, barren land. But there came a time when Umar radiallahu anhu, he sent 1,500 Sahaba to go inhabit Kufa. He started developing Kufa. And he sent Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu, and he told the people of Kufa that, "O Kufans, listen well. I have preferred you over my own self by sending Ibn Masud." That was the caliber of Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu. He said that I have preferred you over myself. And when he went there in a short span of time, he filled the entire city with ilm and ulama. The ilm of qira'at, the ilm of tajweed, the ilm of fiqh, the ilm of hadith. The historians mention that by the time when he was passing away, approximately 4,000 students, direct students he had. And imagine his students. And because of this, there came a time when Ali radiallahu anhu, when he came to visit Kufa, he made dua for Ibn Masud. He said, "Oh, Ibn Masud, may Allah have rahmah upon you. You filled this whole city with ilm." And because of that, when Ali radiallahu anhu became the Khalifa, he moved the Islamic Empire. He moved the capital from Medina Munawwara to Kufa. Medina Munawwara, the city of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But the capital of Islam, right? Washington DC is our capital. So Ali radiallahu anhu, because of what? Because of the virtue of his ilm. Once a barren desert land with nothing on it, no khayr, no goodness. But because ilm came there on a collective level, what happened? It became the center, the capital of Islam. Another example, everybody knows about Islamic Spain. Islamic Spain? Cordoba, same situation. Nothing going on. But because the Khalifa, Hakam al-Thani, he went and he had that enthusiasm for ilm. He understood the importance of ilm. So he started calling the ulama from all around the corners of the world. He would say that you come, you write a book. Any book that you compile and you comprise, I'll give you the weight of that book in gold. You come and move to my city, and I'll pay for all of your expenses, your family's expenses. You'll have all of the libraries at your disposal. To give you a brief example and understanding of what the relationship was between Islamic Empire and the non-Muslim, in the library in Cordoba alone, 400,000 volumes were found. This was unheard of, unthought of, before printing presses, everything done by hand. The Christian Empire could only boast 2,000 books in their libraries and Avalon does. What's the comparison between 2,000 and 400,000? Because of that, Andalus in Spain became what it was. Okay? This is what we need to do today. In our community here, mashallah, they showed me around from place to place, and I saw this is so much potential, so much community. But in order for the community to keep on rising, okay? To keep on rising and to excel all other communities, for us as an ummah, to excel all other ummahs and all other peoples, we cannot stay in the darkness of ignorance any longer. We need to start studying, and we need to start studying with a passion. And we need to start studying regularly. Not just, okay, I'll come to a lecture halfway through, I don't understand. We have to make it part of our life. This deep concern has to be in our lives. And I'll leave you with one hadith of Rasulullah. What is the virtue of a person who does this? Very long narration. One tabi'i, he left Medina Munawwara. He left Medina Munawwara and traveling in those days to go to Syria and Sham. Who knows, it took him 1 month, 2 months journey in the hot desert and the hot sands. When he arrived there, he went to the Jami Masjid of Damascus. And he said that I'm looking for Abu Darda Iran. Kathir bin Qais, who's a rawi of the hadith, he says I was there. And he asked him, what for have you come? He's like, I've heard that you have narrated one hadith of Rasulullah. I heard it back home from another tabi'i, but I just want to hear it from you. He left his house for only this one sake. He knew the hadith. But he said, the person who narrated it, he said, he heard it from you. I want to hear it directly from you. So he said that, do you have any family, any relatives here? He says, no. Do you have any business here? No. So you only came here for this ilm? Yes. So then he said, listen well. He narrated this hadith, that man salaka tariqan yatlubu fihi ilma. Whosoever traverses a path, whoever undertakes a journey, yatlubu fihi ilma, wherein he's seeking knowledge, sahaballahu lahu tariqan ila jannah. Because of this, Allah will make his path to Jannah easy. You seek ilm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest, mashallah. You take ilm, ilm is going to guide you towards Jannah. Then he says, وَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ لَتَدْعُ أَجْنِحَتَهَا لِطَالِبِ that the angels, the pure sinless angels, they're going to spread their wings out underneath the feet of that talib ilm out of happiness of what they're doing. Nowadays we give the red carpet treatment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the angel treatment. Another thing, he mentions, وَإِنَّ الْعَالِمَ يَسْتَغْفِرُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ The person who makes this sacrifice, what's going to happen? What's another benefit? That anybody and everybody who's in the skies, meaning the angels, everybody else who's found in the skies, and everybody on the face of the earth, حَتَّى الْحِيتَانِ فِي جَوْفِ الْمَاءِ وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ حَتَّى الْهَمَّةِ فِي جُرْحِهَا That even the fish in the oceans and even up to the ants in their antholes will make dua bi-maghfirah. That, oh Allah, forgive him, forgive him. Nowadays, we have something wrong, we'll go into the next shift and make dua for me, that that's some problems, can you make dua for me? The malaika, the angels, the entire creation will be making dua for bi-maghfirah. Any doubt can remain in this acceptance? And then he says, وَإِنَّ فَضْلَ الْعَالِمِ عَلَى الْآبِدِ كَفَضْلِ الْقَمَرِ لَيْلَةِ الْبَدْرِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَوَاكِبِ That the virtue that a person who possesses knowledge has over the people who worship Allah day and night, what's the difference? What's the ratio? He's like the ratio, the difference between the moon on the 14th night over the rest of the stars in the sky. Both have noor, but when you look at the 14th moon, you're like, subhanAllah, mashallah, so beautiful. And one riwayah, كَفَضْلِي عَلَى أَغْنَاكُمْ Rasul mentions that the difference in rank in daraja is like the virtue that I, Rasul has over the least of you. And finally, in the hadith, Rasul mentions that إِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ وَرَثَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ that the scholars of deen, the people who have sacrificed and acquired the ilm of deen, وَرَثَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ they are the inheritors of the prophets. وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ لَمْ يُوَرِثُوا دِينَارًا وَدِرْهَمًا The ulama don't leave behind dirhams and dollars and cents and pounds. إِنَّمَا وَرَثُوا الْعِلْمِ The only thing they leave behind is this ilm. فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ Whoever takes this ilm, أَخَذَ بِحَبٍ وَافِيَةٍ He has taken a sufficient amount. Right? This is the fadail and the virtue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now it's upon us. We have to inculcate this in our lives. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to make amal and to learn the ilm of deen. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
والسلام من يرد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن العلماء ورثة الأنبياء وإن الأنبياء لم يورثوا دينارا ولا درهما وإنما ورثوا العلم فمن أخذه أخذ بحبل وافر. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وذريته وأزواجه. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر رضي الله تعالى عنه وأشهدهم في أمر الله عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه وأصدقهم حياء عثمان رضي الله تعالى عنه وأقضاهم علي رضي الله تعالى عنه وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة رضي الله تعالى عنها والحسن والحسين سيدات أهل الجنة رضي الله تعالى عنهما وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله رضي الله تعالى عنه. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم. خير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا زدنا علما. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم